No matter how full my closet gets, I swear I have nothing that I want to wear, which is why I'm super grateful for Armoire, because with their clothing rental membership, I get to have access to high quality, unique brands tailored just for me. All I had to do was take a 5-minute style quiz, and it was scary accurate with how much they knew my style, and by some kind of magic, it was delivered at my door within 2 days. If I want to try something new or swap out styles, I just send it. No laundry required. Best thing. Armoire is great for so many reasons. It can help define your personal style. It's super spot on. And also it's sustainable because I don't have to feel bad about if I wear an outfit one time and I just want to try something new. I can rent things, try them out, and keep swapping and not have to worry about waste. Plus, you're always going to have something to wear without hassle or clutter in your closet, which is what I really relate to. And no matter what occasion you have, whether it's a date or a work conference or a black tie event, you'll be the best dressed person in the room without even stepping a foot into the fitting room. This is fantastic because I've literally bought an entire outfit before just to go to one party. Armoire can also help if your body is changing, whether that's a fitness journey or during pregnancy. I know I've recommended this to a lot of the new moms that I know in my life, because your body's changing and you want to feel great and amazing. And one of my favorite things is that Armoire is women owned and led. They even spotlight women owned designers on their website. Right now, our listeners can give Armoire a try and get up to 50% off their first month. That is up to $125 off. Just visit armoire.style/book talk. That's Armoire, ARMOIRE.style/book talk, BOOKTALK, to get 50% off your first month.
The last thing you want to hear when you need your auto insurance most is a robot with countless irrelevant menu options. Which is why with USAA Auto Insurance, you'll get great service that is easy and reliable, all at the touch of a button. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
USAA.
Hilton brings you new ways to stay, with experiences that let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
Welcome to Book Talk for Book Talk with Jac and Amy, a literary podcast where we deep dive into the writings of your favorite novels. This spring, we're hosting a book club while we prepare our 10-part literary analysis of Sarah J. Maas's Crown of Midnight. This is Jac.
And I'm Amy, and each week we'll discuss one book from our spring book club roster. By using our literary background, we'll provide our flash analysis of each book, as well as discuss listener thoughts. The views expressed by the hosts are entirely their own and in no way represent the thoughts or intentions of the original author. This podcast is a discussion, shared to spark thought and conversation on the characters and themes of this novel. The interpretations presented in this podcast are just a few of many possibilities. Listeners are encouraged to read along and share their own analysis of the text.
Though the hosts speak mostly within the constraints of this book, series spoilers may be discussed with or without warning. Explicit language, as well as themes of sex, violence, abuse, depression, self-harm, and death will recur throughout this podcast. Listener discretion is advised. Today we're taking a break to talk to one of our favorite authors, Nisha J Tuli.
Nisha J Tuli is an Amazon Top 50 and international bestselling author of romantasy and contemporary romance. Her novel Trial of the Sun Queen, the first in the Artifacts of Yarros series, became a book talk hit and has gone to be published in over a dozen languages around the world. When she's not writing or reading, Nisha can be found enjoying travel, food, and camping with her partner, 2 kids, and their fluffy Samoyed.
Look for her debut rom-com, Not Safe for Work, a workplace rivals to lovers romance that'll be published in May 2025. Welcome to the podcast, Nisha.
Hi.
Welcome. It's so great to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
I love being able to meet authors who've left emotional turmoil within my heart. And stress.
So was my number one goal, to stress you out.
You accomplished it, because
good.
It has been a stress read. It's been I'm annoyed about the holidays because I powered through the first 3 books. So I honestly have the last one to go, and that weight has been sitting with me for weeks, and I'm just resentful of life being, I'm like, I don't think life understands. I have like that cliffhanger was the
I know,
cruelest.
especially with the way 3 ends. I know, that was me.
That cliffhanger was a hell of a cliffhanger, and I just kept because I listened to it on audiobook, looking at my phone of well, no, that cut off. That cut off.
That can't be the end. That can't be the end.
There's more.
So people were like, I flipped the page and it was acknowledgements, and they're like, what do you mean?
There was a.
You know what? I have deep appreciation for that cliffhanger, because so often I think other books have set us up to have the expectation that cliffhanger gets resolved before the actual end of the book. And so I loved that you had the courage to be like, nope, this is it.
I know.
Have fun, guys.
Every time. I will say, I feel like endings of books don't. Endings of books are very, not hit or miss, but you can tell when, I don't know, if an author's willing to go there. And same thing with book 1, same thing with book 2. It's no, I'm willing to leave you hanging. Book 2, certain things weren't resolved in book 2, Nisha.
No.
And that also stressed me out.
No, that one wasn't quite as bad, but yeah. That wasn't my original first idea for the end of book 3. It was going to be softer, and then I was like, no, let's do this.
Hard.
Let's go hard.
Book 2, the lack of resolution on certain. I'm trying to be respectful of people not spoiling anything. However, the first book we're going to spoiler entirely. So if anyone hasn't read the first book, please be aware of that. But the ending, certain things weren't resolved in book 2. I'll take this out.
Well, certain things were resolved from book 1, but then it just poses more questions.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So, Amy, would you like to dive into the first question that we have?
Yeah, I really enjoy your world building, Nisha. And I feel like, we've seen different books about Fae with different courts, and even though, each court has a different theme to it, which is something we see in other books, yours felt deeply unique to me. It didn't feel like a carbon copy of any other Fae world that I've ever read. And so I really am curious, how do you keep all these details organized? How do you keep all that rich history you give your characters and their kingdoms?
I mean, I would love to tell you I have a really organized world Bible, but that is not true. I mean, when I first wrote the first one, I had everything in a Notion doc, and I sort of had all the courts and all the people and the relationships and the items and extra things. As I kept writing, I definitely sort of abandoned, I didn't keep up with it like I should have. I don't know. I have a really good memory. I keep a lot of it in my head. I've always got in my head. And then for myself, what I between each book, I went back and I listened to the previous ones on 3x speed. I listened to the audiobook, and I just take notes throughout while I'm listening to them, being oh yeah, don't forget to address this, or I'm oh, and I said something wrong in this draft I'm working on. I need to go back and fix that. So that's sort of how I do it. And I don't even know if I did keep really good track of everything. I still think I would need to do that, because I think there's little tiny things that you say that you wouldn't necessarily track in your world Bible, but you're oh yeah, right, I discussed this here. I should finish this thought in this next book or whatever. So I'm that's basically how I keep it organized, I guess. I mean, organized chaos in some ways.
No, honestly, that's the miracle of technology that I never would have thought of. Just go listen to your audiobook.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of authors hate listening to their audiobooks because it makes them feel super awkward. And sometimes I'm sitting there listening to the smut that I wrote that someone else is then reading, and I'm oh God, this is so embarrassing.
Someone else read this. It's
I wrote it. Someone had to read it out loud.
Look, the way that I listen to the smutty scenes while in my car, plenty of pedestrians have also listened to this. There's been plenty of eye contact while we're talking about lore doing certain things, and it's I know you can hear what I'm listening to, but that's incredible. To be able to just go from memory. I mean, Grant, like you said, you take notes, you go back from you go back to all of it.
And there wasn't a ton of space between any of them. It's not I had 2 years in between books, right? These came out so fast that
I know.
It was sort of I didn't really have time to forget too much.
It's you write very quickly. That's
Oh,
another
my
one where I was
gosh.
like, Goodreads, what mistake are we doing here? Where this can't all be accurate of how quickly you put these out.
Yeah, it's been an intense couple of years.
Dare I
was
say
ready
prolific?
Yeah, it was like when you're an author, like, I don't know, when I was first starting out, I was like putting irons in every fire, and I was just like this, and then like everything happened at once, and suddenly I blinked and I had 11 books under contract, and I was like, oh my God, and 2 simultaneous series. I will try never to do that again. That was too much. Like, it was just too much. And, now I have only 2 left to go of those 11 books. And I mean, obviously I'm like looking to the next thing now, but that was intense. I mean, I took most half of December off. January has been really light for me. I desperately needed a break. Like,
Yeah.
I hadn't stopped in 4.5 years. Like, basically it was just, I started writing. I was determined to make this happen. And like, it took over my entire life.
Oh,
Yeah.
Like, how do you do it? I'm like, I have an incredibly unhealthy work-life balance. Like, that's how I do it. There's no secret other than that. Like,
Yeah. I mean, we shouldn't necessarily idolize unhealthy work-life balance, but you are my hero. When I saw your Instagram post about book 4 of your other series, I was like, wait.
Other series? Yeah. And then you also have a romance book coming out too.
Yeah. And then I have a rom-com. Yeah. I mean, that was written a long time ago. So like, sometimes when you see it, it's like, it seemed like that book was actually written 2 years ago, right? Like, it's not, so it's sort of the order they come out is not necessarily the order they're written. So there's a little bit there.
2 years isn't that long ago.
Yeah.
2 years
I mean,
is still not long ago.
Rom-com is just like, it's shorter and it's like a little, I don't want to say it's easier, but it's got like less, you don't have to go quite as deep in the world building and that kind of thing. So it's a little bit different. However, you also can't just like throw in a demon or magic or something to create conflict. So you got to come up with your basic
You're like, okay, I guess we're going to go with miscommunication this time.
Yeah, whatever this,
That's incredible. So kind of going off of like what we were saying with, all these going back into, listening to what you do and go like, oh, I placed this breadcrumb here and I have this Easter egg here. And when we did the analysis of Trial of the Sun Queen, it was one of those things where Amy and I were kind of sitting there being like, I feel like I could read this 3 times, and go back and find clues. And at that point when we talked about it on the podcast, we hadn't read the other ones. And we were actively being like, I know I'm not smart enough to know what is happening entirely, but what would you say has been one of your favorite breadcrumbs, Easter eggs in any of your books that you're kind of like, you guys might have missed that, or that was a good one that I did there?
Okay. So in the 3rd book, there's the scenes with Cloris Payne and when she goes in the alternate timeline, and she makes a comment about Atlas not being the primary. I don't know how many, right? And I was curious how many people would pick up on that because, or sorry, that was in book 2. She says it.
Yeah.
And then in book 3, you find out the reason for her saying that. And I was really curious to see how many people would pick up on her saying that, because she sort of just says it as a throwaway comment.
Those are the best throwaways.
Would be like, what does she mean by that? But I don't know who caught that. And it wasn't really an Easter egg, but it was a thing that ended up, I put in sort of randomly, not intending it to become a bigger story. But in the 2nd book, when Laura and Nadir are just talking and he says about his father having been in love with another woman, that actually ends up being the catalyst for the whole end of the series, like by accident. Like, that wasn't really what I intended, but I was going into the 4th book. I really didn't want to end with a war. Like, I didn't want to write a big battle. I don't like reading them. I don't like writing them. It's just not my thing.
Yeah. I respect that so much.
But then I sort of I needed his motivation to be his strong, because in the 4th book you actually see the Aurora King, like Ryan's past. Like, you get there's a dual timeline there, and that you see his past and why he turned out the way he did. And that conversation between the two of them, Laura and Nadir, in that 2nd book, ends up being the whole catalyst for the end of the series. And that was totally an accident. Like, I did not plan it that way. I thought it was going to end differently.
I love it when books surprise you when you're writing yourself. You're like, what?
I know. And I'm like, I'm an accidental genius.
Yeah. I mean, and that's where it's like, it's great, because if you're surprised with yourself, I'm over here trying to like guess everything. Where all of a sudden I'm like, okay, in the first book, Atlas said red is his favorite color, and Laura was questioning it. Is that him saying, I know you're the Heart Queen because red is part of the Heart Queen, and this is him trying to give her a clue? And I just feel like I'm doing one of those.
Well,
like,
and he gets rejected, you know, when he gets rejected by Circe, and like, yeah. And then I think like I've been fortunate enough that the second book was written before the first one came out, and the third one was written mostly before the last one came up, so that I could go back and sort of, with the third and fourth, I did not have that luxury. I was just like, in the third one, I'm like, okay, I have to be careful about what I put here. Like, can I make sure I can close this in the fourth book? Because I'm not a plotter. I'm a pantser. Like I cannot plot. I need to sit down and I need to like write their dialogue and write their actions before I like discover the story, which just sucks at this point in my career, because like I'm at the point where I can sell a book on proposal, which is where you don't have the whole thing written, but that means I have to figure out what the hell the book is. And I have a hard time doing that until I've written the whole book. But yeah, so it's been, so that's tricky for me, but I don't know.
You're a pantser.
I wouldn't have guessed it.
When people always say that, I'm like, okay, I'll take that as a compliment. But yeah, I am, because I don't know. And I think I read a lot of books. I have read, like, and I think inherently I understand the sort of story, then the storytelling and the technique, like that I can put a line in there and pull it out later on and be like, hey, this was a hint. Because in my head, I have a general idea of where we're going, but like,
no, that makes sense. I mean, there's definitely an element of, well, first there's a huge element of like, okay, like this, you could tell me that you've planned this world 5 years ago and I would believe it. Like, I would be like, you knew the lore of this entire, not to be punny, but you knew the lore of this entire world before like you even started. So I could believe that entirely.
I did not.
But I could also sense the way that Lore was discovering this world felt genuine. And now that you're saying that you're kind of discovering the world the way that she's discovering the world, it makes sense, because the entire time with the first book, when we were talking about it, it was never a matter of, wow, Lore really like this information, like how does she not know this information is hidden. It just felt so purposeful,
right? And I mean, it works well in her character because she's been kept from all of this for so long that you're learning it alongside her. So I think in this case it worked well.
Perfectly.
I think that's a great challenge in any fantasy romantasy novel, is when you're introducing a character to the new world, how do you make it so that you're not withholding information, and not like I'm a big advocate for like giving you the information you need right now, and that's it. Like I don't like giving a lot of info and a lot of world building, which I know like epic fantasy, like people like that, and that's great, but I do not care for that in either I'm reading or writing. Like I want to keep the pace up. I want to keep it fast. I want to give you just enough that you know what's going on, and maybe that you don't know what's going on. Like there's still a question, but you know it's coming. Like you'll figure it out later, like that kind of thing. But I feel like that actually, and that leads into our next question. I feel like you perfectly capture, and it makes so much sense now that each book adds another layer to the world. There are concepts that maybe were hinted at, but not really deeply hinted at in the prior book. And it feels really natural, and actually feels very kind and considerate of the reader. So, and I know you're saying you're a pantser, but were there concepts that as you're writing book 2 that you're like, okay, that's a concept I want to save for book 3?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, the bigger picture was in my head. I mean, where the whole ending would go to. But I mean, it also changed a few times, which I think is the fun part about being a pantser. And like by adding like a single line, you can change the whole trajectory of a story, right? So I think, I think it just sort of, the bigger stuff was there. But yeah, in the end, the book ended different. The whole series ended differently than I thought. Well, one part of it ended differently. One part I was leading up to, but one part of it, like, with Ryan, it didn't go, I thought it would be different. And then I was like, no, and it ended up being what I thought was so much better in my mind.
Yeah. I mean, you're not forcing anything. You're not trying to make things fit in a box. And I genuinely believe that readers can pick that up.
Yeah. That book was like, I cried so many times writing that book. It was the hardest book I've ever written. Just because like I had to bring it all together and tie out these things. You don't want to introduce anything new. And it was just really emotional. Like these characters changed my whole life. Like, and it just was like saying goodbye to them was Really emotional. God, I cried so many times. I just be sitting there like, which is nothing I've ever done. Like, I've never cried from my writing before.
That's exciting, stressful,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Would you say that happened with book 4 of your other series as well?
Not as much, I will
Okay.
say. It didn't have, that one was a bit different. Artifacts is my baby, so.
yeah.
Well, it's a beautiful baby.
It is.
Thank you.
Gorgeous baby. I get when I stress listen, like because, I like to listen to books. When I stress listen, all of a sudden it goes from like 1.3, 1.5, 1.7. I'm like, I can't.
Oh, yeah. Really?
And I'm just like, I can't, like, I'm scared to listen to this part. And I know I need to get through it. And it was just very, like, I think the most intense one was the ending of book 2 when you're in Laura's grandmother's perspective.
Yeah, the other timeline, yeah.
I know what's going to happen. I know how this ends, and why am I so stressed out for this? It was like, it's almost like watching Titanic and you're just like, well, I know how this goes. And yet,
right, yeah.
Here
but
I
I mean,
am.
yeah, and I mean, that's what, right? Like, there's going to be a happy ending eventually, but how are they going to get there, right? Like, which is the whole basis of romance. We know there's going to be a happy ending, but how much will they suffer to get there, and like, what will be learned along the way?
Boy, will they suffer.
Boy, will they suffer.
I have a quick question about the dual timelines before we jump back into our regularly programmed questions, which is, I don't know about Jac. She might feel differently, but I loved the dual timelines in book 2 and 3 because I felt, and I've started book 4, so what I've seen of book 4, because I don't feel like it necessarily created empathy for those characters.
No, it wasn't supposed to.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And I feel like often the dual timelines have that purpose of both information and empathy, but I feel like I really appreciated that we got to see characters we're not going to empathize with, that we'll learn to dislike maybe as much as everybody else dislikes these characters, but we also get really important information.
I had a lot of people be like, I didn't like Cersei. I'm like, you weren't supposed to like her. Like, that wasn't really the point. Like, it was just to tell you what she was like. It wasn't supposed to be a redeeming. I mean, I liked her in the way that she was like horrible and selfish and like it was kind of fun, but like, you weren't supposed to like her. And even with book 4, like, you'll see you have Ryan's POV. Mm-hmm. My editor was like, are you trying to like make us understand him? And I'm like, no, like, is any of this making you like him more? Like, that's not the point. It's just to give you his backstory and like why he's done all of this. Like, it's not necessarily to make you like him or justify his actions.
Yeah, but it's so hard to do that in a way that makes me want to engage with their chapters. Right. And you managed to do that very well. Because Cersei was very much a like, sometimes with other books, I'll get those dual POVs or those flashbacks, and I'm with other characters that I have no investment in the same way that I do with the leads. Those are normally things I'll like speed through and don't want to like catch because I'm just like, well, I'm not invested in these guys. And yet every single time I do want to know more. Mm-hmm. And I kept trying to figure out why that was, because clearly you don't go for empathy. You're not here to make me like this character. However, I think what makes me appreciate what was happening is this constant theme that I kept seeing. Amy kept seeing too. I don't want to claim the share of it, but it's the sins of our father, or in this time, grandmother. And was that something that you knew from the get-go that you wanted to tackle? Because it just was, I mean, as you're saying, you're a pantser, so maybe not, but like, it becomes a very unique theme and not something that you see often in Romantasy, but I took a life of its own.
Yeah, I think it's in a way sort of not necessarily pardoning you, but would you make different choices than the person who raised you, basically, or who came before you? And in book 4, Laura explores that a lot. She's like, because she does some things and she's like, am I just becoming as bad as my grandmother was? Yeah. Like, am I just repeating the same mistake she did? And am I going to make a different decision and go the other way? Because she could have gone in either direction. And I think that the end of the series is very much that. And same with Nadir and his father. Like, either one of them could have just done the same thing, but which choice are they going to make? Are they going to, and like, can you remove yourself from the choices of the person. And like Nadir mentions this in book 3, where he talks about like everyone judges me because of who my father is. So like they assume everything about me, which, you know, I think in a fantasy novel, you can sort of be like, do I make a different choice? And you get these like opportunities to do so that you might not in real life. And I think with like Sirs and Ryan, I think like a good villain still thinks is always like they are the hero in their own story. Like they don't think they're the villain, right?
Yep.
And that was sort of what I was trying to get across. Like in their mind, their actions were justifiable. They had goals, they had dreams and desires just like everyone else. And so therefore what they were doing was justified in their mind to get to those things.
Yeah. I mean, I love what you've done with that and how we can see how to me, it brings up an existential question of how much self-awareness is necessary to avoid the mistakes, to avoid like generational trauma or generational cycles.
To recognize that you might be following the same pattern. Yeah. And I think with Laura, one thing I wanted Laura from the very beginning was to be really self-aware. And I think she is from book 1. She's aware of her emotions. She knows she's acting crazy, but she sort of acknowledges it, even if she doesn't control it yet. And that's something she works towards the end of the series too. I don't know. I'm big on self-awareness.
Yeah, and you have like good examples of like someone who directly raised you versus someone that you've never met before.
Right.
And, you know, should you follow in their footsteps? Because I think, you know, everyone has that, or not everyone, but like a lot of people have that in their family where you've heard about this family figure, right? You've heard about, oh my God, you're just like your great aunt so-and-so, you know, and you're just kind of like, well, am I like that? Or are you trying to fit me into a spot? Or am I trying to fit myself into a spot? Can things like personality and drive and goals be genetic? And the answer is no, but how much of that ends up being self-fulfilling prophecy?
Absolutely, yeah.
And we do that to ourselves.
And I think like in the world we are here in January 29th to 2025, like, yeah. We are seeing that where like a family member has made a decision that we're so divided, you know, like we are fascism versus everyone else right now. And like my father is, you know, whatever. And am I going to cut off my family ties, right? Like, am I going to choose that other cycle because I know that this is not right. And in a more real world context, right? Like, yeah, I think we're constantly tasked with that question if we are growing up with someone who is not ideal.
Yeah. And I relate to that. Like, I relate to having some of the characters just be like, my family has, like Nadir. Sometimes I realize I've never said characters' names out loud and I get really self-conscious about it. Like, I've heard it and then I'm just like, oh no, what, like,
whenever you do like an audiobook, they ask you for a list of all the pronunciations of things. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I just made them up in my head. Like, you want me to say them out loud now? Like,
this is a good looking name. I don't know how to say this.
I don't know.
Yeah. And I don't want to claim that I have like evil family members and they're like that level of Aurora King evil, but it is like kind of what you're saying with like this day and age where I can separate myself and I can make the moves that I want to do. But I related a lot to Nadir, which is funny because I love my mom and so I don't want her to listen to this and be like, excuse me, ma'am, I'm not like, it's not like anything like that. But I loved him coming to his own realization that his passiveness is part of the crime. His not willing to do anything and letting things happen is just as harmful.
Yeah, absolutely. And that also applies to our world right now, right? Like that's, I don't know, people say romance is fluffy and doesn't have any substance, right? Like that is so not true. We all know that's not true, right? Like there is very much a commentary on how we move.
That's literally why we started this podcast, was because we were just like, no one takes these books seriously. And
wait till you read my rom-com. That, I don't know if I went too almost like...
Ooh, I'm excited.
The whole thing is very much a comment on women in STEM and being a woman of color in STEM, and like the whole thing is just a bra burning fest. Like it's just
I'm ready to burn my bras there, you know.
And I toned it down because I was like, oh, this is really gonna set some people off.
You know what? Set them. I don't.
Excuse us while we hydrate and you listen to this ad. As we both know, Jac, you love to make sure your nails are done. I aspire to have my nails done, but I'm the kind of person that always does it myself at home.
If I don't have my nails done, I don't feel confident. Like there's just something about having your nails looking good that makes me feel good.
That's why I recently started trying Olive & June's press-on manicure system, and quite frankly, they're beautiful, it's easy, and I feel great about it.
I normally either get black nails, red nails, and Olive & June is actually making me change what kind of nail color I get. I am obsessed with Rodeo Queen. It might be Rodeo Queen, but we live in LA, so for me, it's Rodeo Queen. But they have so many good colors.
I am obsessed with the polish color Obsessed. It's this dark vampiric red. I can't wait to try it out.
Olive & June has everything you need for a salon quality manicure. It's all in one box, and it's perfect for that DIY do it at home.
You can customize your kit with 6 different polishes of your choice, and let me tell you, they have so many options.
You can even do gel nails at home, which is so expensive at the nail salon. The polishes, they don't ship, it lasts for 7 or more days, and essentially it breaks down to just $2 per manicure.
It makes your manicure routine super simple, super fast. You can do it on a Sunday night so that you're ready for the workday Monday. Now you do it on your timetable, whenever is convenient for you, and quite frankly, with my press-ons, I don't have to wait for the polish to dry.
Visit oliveandjune.com/booktalk for 20% off your first system.
That's oliveandjune.com/BOOKTALK for 20% off your first system.
Amy, you know when you're done reading a really good book and you just have an itch to scratch? You have a trope, a theme, a genre, something that you just really want to get another good story. Fortunately, with Galatea, you have over 1,000 stories to choose from shifter romance to sci-fi, from thrillers to bad boy billionaires, forbidden love, werewolf series, alpha fantasy, rom-coms, and so much more.
Galatea is a reading app where modern book lovers can dive into a library of immersive stories with sound effects, vibrations, and real-time pacing that adapts to your reading speed. Every scene comes alive.
Galatea is home to original series and standalone stories with an exclusive catalog of best-selling authors, and new chapters drop daily. So there's always something new to explore.
Over 30 million people have already made Galatea their go-to. Join now to escape the ordinary and indulge in stories that make you feel everything.
Right now, Galatea is offering our listeners an extra 25% off on top of an already irresistibly affordable subscription when you go to galatea.com/booktalk.
That's GALATEA.com/booktalk. BOOKTALK to indulge in unlimited stories for even less. Galatea.com/booktalk.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Uh-oh, the last cookie.
You can get a new box of cookies in as fast as an hour with Walmart Express Delivery.
Are you my guilty self-conscience?
No, I'm the voice offering you promo code EXPRESS for free delivery on your first order.
Hey, who ate my cookies?
You mean, these cookies?
Order now. Welcome to your Walmart. Promotion valid for first express delivery order. $50 minimum subject to availability. Restrictions apply.
But I feel like people learn through books too, because there's a lot of like coping through trauma. There's a lot of coping through, like, if I can see this character face this realization, that's not someone calling them out on their realization. So they can, in theory, look at this character and be like, wow, they went through this, but no one's calling me out. So maybe this is the best route to go through. And we see that a lot of times with, like, whether it's processing complacency, whether that's processing other things, but like, especially when you're processing trauma.
Yeah. When we, one book we analyzed, we talked about, here are, you don't know, understand in the first book that this person is abusive to the female main character. And so we're like, we're here to kind of dissect that for you and point out these things. And we've had a lot of listeners go, wow, you made me realize that I've been in an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
Which was not the intent. But...
Yeah, I'm like, oh, and like, I mean, there's been a couple where it's like, I broke up with my partner because I listened and I realized that he's abusive, and I was like, yay, but also, oh no.
Yeah, I mean, I think books teach empathy, right? Like they teach you to recognize that others people's stories, and that in the end, we all want the same thing, right? Like,
right.
Yeah.
Right. So speaking about kind of trauma and abuse, you know, Lore has a lot of her own healing that she has to do from past trauma and sexual violence. And we felt like that was really natural. You know, I never had a moment of, gosh, Lore, like, get over yourself. It was never like that. You know, anytime she pulled away from Nadir, I felt like it was really justified. It wasn't, I never felt like it was drawn out just to be drawn out.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, I think a lot of people did not feel that way, like, especially in the second book when at the end, when she's like, absolutely not. I know that pissed a lot of people off. But to me, it wouldn't have made sense for her to be like, yeah, let's do this. Like, it just wouldn't have been not true to her character. She wasn't ready yet. And like, I needed him to demonstrate to her that he wasn't going to push her, right? Like, he was like, yeah, absolutely, whatever you need. Like, I'm not going to push you, because she needed to understand that he wasn't going to do that before she could possibly even like get over it. But like,
I feel like people forget how you completely introduce this world. And it was an immediate pause of the book. It was like just a minute in, and it was Lore had just, you know, she could still taste the sweat of the warden because, you know, she's just trying to survive. I paused the book. I'm like, all right, we're in this. Like, this is
the book.
This is what we're doing. I'm going to let me mentally prepare.
Let's go.
And you're not like, it's like, do people forget that was her life for so long?
Exactly. From when she was a child, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, she went into the prison at 12, and, you know, you never... Which I don't know if I want to know, but now I kind of do. You never specified like what age she was when she had to.
When this started?
Let's
say she was an adult. Let's say she was an
okay,
adult.
Cool.
I don't really want to go there.
I don't doubt that she was objectified and afraid at a very young age. And that is a fear that a lot of women have. But how can people, I mean, now here I am scolding like readers. Guys,
no, I know. But sometimes, and I think because they want to get to the sex. I mean, I don't even want to get started on how them not doing P&V is not sex when all the other stuff they do during that book, like, that was all sex too. Like, it's always funny to me when people are like, are you going to let them do it? I'm like, well, they
happen.
Did it. They happen. Right. Because there wasn't the
non-penetrative sex is still sex.
That was all sex too. But anyways, don't even like get me started on the heteronormativeness of that. But
thank you. Thank you.
But yeah, I think that was like, they just wanted to get into the smut, which I get. But I think a lot of people would have been like, what the hell? Like, am I allowed to swear on your podcast?
No, yes, of course.
What the fuck? Like, she's just gonna forget all of the stuff that happened to her? Like, this was more important. It's her working through it. And yeah, like, obviously it created a bit more angst, and like, I'm always all for that. But so that part doesn't hurt. But yeah, no, I thank you. I'm glad that it felt natural. And I tried to make, like, back to the self-awareness that she's like, yeah, this happened to me, and I have this trauma, but I'm also not going to let it define my every moment, right? Like, I don't have a choice but to keep going and figure this out. And I'll have time to heal later, basically. Yeah.
I think that makes you a more credible writer, in that you're like, I have to be true to this character's journey. I have to allow them to heal, instead of just writing what you think will sell. Because
I mean, it's finding that balance of what readers want, what is true to the story, like, yeah.
And I feel like people might have missed on the narrative that Lore gives herself, because in the first book, what she did with the wardens, it almost came off as, we knew it wasn't consensual. However, there was an air of, well, I chose this. I know the rules, and I'm here to follow the rules. And then there's the progression of, no, there is absolutely no consent. There was, you were following the rules in a way that was absolutely horrifying, but like, there's no world where there's consent there. And that processing went in tandem with her relationship with Nadir and her sexual relationship with Nadir in book 2, where it's like, well, I want to do this. I want to, I like that. There's like that gusto of like, well, I'm choosing to do this. And but then all of a sudden
it's my choice. This time it's my choice.
But at the same time, she kind of has to backtrack a little bit and just say, wait a minute, was that my choice? Is that really
flew a little close to the sun?
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just like, one penis does not save it all. Like, it's not like, oh my God, wow, his hands were really good. I'm healed, guys.
Well, and that's too, like, she meets her mate. And so therefore she can't just be like, this is just some guy. Like, she can't just be, she has to acknowledge that he's there because she can't help it. Although she could walk away, but she doesn't really want to because she's like, no, I feel something too, right? But, which is like why I love a fated mate trope, because like, yes, because they are perfect for each other. And it's not like they're being forced together, but they're also like having to navigate any issues between them in terms of like being together. Yeah.
Yeah. And also you're like, oh, fated mates, but rare as hell.
Like,
but that's what we're going to do. There was a thought process that Lore had multiple times throughout the series that every time she thought this, I had a very visceral reaction. And it was, why does it always come back down to this with men? Why is it always come back down to not just sex, ownership, which equals sexual violence? And, it like several times where, she's trying to flirt with to get information, but she hates it. Like, she doesn't want to flirt to get information. And then like, she's not even flirting. She's just being nice. And then this guy takes it as flirting. And then she's like, shit, I know what I have to do. But at the same time, I hate this. And then with the men who kidnapped her and they're threatening her. And it's just like every time she's like, why the fuck is this the thing that has to keep coming back to it? And every time it happened, it really was full body chills where I was like, why? Why is that the thing that keeps coming back to everything? But, even though we're in fantasy, this is such a truth that women in our world and the reality have to face.
Yeah. Yeah. Men kind of suck unless they're in a romance novel as the hero.
Yeah.
But that also then goes back to like when Nadir was like, okay, you don't want this. I'm not going to like force you into anything, right? Like that he's the different man from all these other men around her.
Yeah. Right. He's the man who backed
which,
off.
it's a pretty low fucking bar, but that's
I know. But he's also the man who backed off where he was like,
yeah, exactly. And like I'm going to give you all the space you need. Like, no matter how much it kills me, I'm giving you all the space you need. Like,
and like he did put his penis first at one point, like he did do that, and he recognized that was the wrong move, and I'm like, you know what, that might have hurt me as a reader, but however, I appreciate that. Where it's like,
he needs to grow too, right? He needs to grow too. Like,
he can't be perfect. He can't be like, this fuckboy for years and then suddenly just be like, wow, I really understand feelings. It's like he has to.
You get a cookie. Yeah. You get a cookie for that.
Yeah, I think one thing I appreciate, about your exploration of this idea of sexual violence and men view women as a commodity and their sex as a commodity is that something Jac and I talk a lot about on the podcast is we have a friend who's like, you're writing fantasy. You don't have to make the world look like our own. However, in this instance, I feel like that this world really grapples with an important question and for our world that we should be asking, that we should be exploring. Yes, I love to create a world that's matriarchal and there's no sexual violence against women? Absolutely. However, we should as women be asking ourselves, why does it always come down to this?
And I agree with fantasy, but I also created a world that doesn't have any racism and it didn't have any homophobia.
Yes,
right? Like
right,
that was the alternate world I wanted to create, right? Like, yeah. Because yes, it's fantasy, so therefore I can take those things out that I wanted to take out, but like I didn't want to take this part out. And at some point we need to have a conflict, right? Like,
right.
The heroine, the FMC, she has to have gone through something. Mm-hmm. And so therefore, otherwise it would be a pretty boring story if she had nothing to grow from. But whether that's sexual abuse or just domestic abuse or racism or any of those things, it can be any of those things. And I chose to make this a not racist, not homophobic world. And that's I think I would always do. Like that is to me, there's no appeal to writing that.
Agreed.
But being stuck in a prison with horrible people, what else was going to happen?
But it also introduces that level of what are the repercussions of that, right? Because, just because there's no racism, there's no homophobia, which thank you, I applaud every time. We're just like, oh my God, like, and it doesn't have to be like a big deal, it just is.
They're just
but
people
then
like everyone else, right? Like,
exactly, like
yeah.
who knew? People like everyone else.
Yeah.
Wow. But what I loved about it was just because that's the case doesn't mean that there isn't that structure of
There's still hierarchy,
and there's still fuckboys. Like one of my all-time favorite fuckboys of all time, dare I say, Gabriel.
Gabriel.
Oh yeah, I do love Gabriel.
Like trying to have a conversation while he's like getting a blowjob was just, he's like, hold on, I'll answer this question in a minute. I'm almost there. He does not care, man or woman. He is, he's just there to get his, but at the same time, he's like, also filled with emotions.
Oh, it just hurts so much. It's funny because someone about that scene with him and Aravind, and someone's like, that was so weird. They were like together, and this woman who's in my reader group, she's like, no, I'm a stripper, and this is exactly what happens when they're men. And I'm like, thank you. I know.
Yes. The amount of times
I've had exactly what men do when they come and they sit next to each other and they get themselves.
The amount of times I've had like guy friends, they're like, oh yeah, and then we did this. I was like, with another guy in the room.
Yeah.
And yet you're going to
Gabriel doesn't care, right?
Yeah. And yet you're going to be homophobic.
Yeah.
That's
exactly.
Yeah. You want your best guy friend next to you to do this? Just say you want to kiss him. Just say it. Just say it.
I love Gabriel. He was so much fun. I didn't originally intend to have him be a POV, but then it just made sense. Because I couldn't tell that part of the story without him being a POV, and like I love him.
The narrator did such a good job with him too.
He was amazing. Hey,
yeah,
he's so good.
It was very.
All three of them are just like, perfect. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, no, this side, like we talked a lot about Lore and Nadir, but your other characters are just so vibrant. I mean, her siblings. Do you have siblings? Is this?
I have a brother. Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't say we are as close as they are. So.
It's almost a combo of family meets how, like, you can have your family be your chosen family.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
And, they're like, we talk, like, books have the themes of chosen family, and that's very popular and everyone resonates with that. But I feel like people don't realize that, like, sometimes your family is your chosen family because you can kick out the bad ones. Like, you don't have to tolerate the baddies in there. Yeah. But their relationship was complex. Like, there was a lot
they had to stick together, right? Like, they only had each other for so long. And therefore, like, of course you're going to.
Well, that's the thing. They didn't
like that.
have to. They chose to.
Yeah,
and that's the beauty of it. Like they had to stick together, but they also could have turned on each other so quickly.
They could have, yeah.
But they didn't because they love each other.
They love each other.
Really sweet.
Yeah, I mean, I one day I kind of want to write Tristan's book.
Yes.
Just because I do have a vision for it, but maybe one day.
Please. I mean, what if I said pretty please? What if I said pretty please?
I do have a vision for his book, but
what if he has a special
involves a lady pirate?
My God. I was gonna say, I'm like, what if it involves someone who, her name might be Jacqueline and she might be like fake blonde, half Hispanic, like just giving you
Noted.
Yeah, just giving you some inspiration. I mean, I don't know if you can tell which character I really loved, but
I, let her write her 2 books and take a really long break. And then and then
takes the thing. Yeah, I think because the end of the book, we get a resolution for Willow, but we don't get a real resolution for Tristan yet. Like, he goes and has some adventure. So he could have another story. And Gabriel could have another story too. I don't know. Maybe one day.
Maybe Gabriel and Tristan kiss. Why do I just want all the boys to kiss? I'm like, maybe Gabriel and Tristan kiss. All the boys kiss.
I will say, originally, I really wanted Gabriel, Nadir, and Lore to be like a threesome, but
I felt that.
But
too.
It's so hard to market if you don't start a series out that way. Because you get people who are like, what the fuck is this? Versus people who are like, yay. But it's so hard to market that. And like, TridePub's not really ready for that either.
They're not, but I feel like you can be the one to do it. Break that.
I think one day I'm going to write my own fanfic and do a scene with the 3 of them. I think it'll be fun.
Yeah. Your spice is spicing. Your spice is top tier.
Thank you.
Of like because I hate when sometimes spice where I'm like, well, that's over. They came so quickly. That's how did they get there?
That scene in book 3, I agonized over that one for sure. That was long, many rewrites done on that one.
Well, It was worth it.
Thank you.
I know. It was almost like, I mean, for anyone, which again, I just because it's not penetrative sex doesn't mean it's not sex.
No.
And like, but at the same time, you're like, once they started doing the penetrative sex, like you're like, all right, they're doing it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if her brother is
it's
not
also
too
the
far.
moment where she's like, gets over her, they both get over
Yes.
themselves too, right? Like it's also like, okay.
And then
we're not going to keep fighting this anymore.
And then they're at it like rabbits. They're like,
They're
waterfall,
at it.
what? Beach with your brother not too far, what?
I was going to say then, like, from that moment on, I very consciously made them solid. Like, there was never going to be any relationship drama between the two of them.
Good. Yeah.
And like book 4 is not, they're solid the whole time. They are like, the conflict is never going to come from them.
Yeah, because you can't hype up this mate. They're bonded.
Right.
They're perfect for each other. Just to be like,
yeah, right.
Now
Just
they're
to like them get in an argument about something stupid, right? Like that to me was really like, the conflict had to come from somewhere else. Even if they are pitted against each other, even if they're like, you know, separated by no fault of their own, like their goal is always to get back to each other and defend each other.
Absolutely. I can't remember. It was just like so many good points. Like I feel like there was purpose to your writing and beyond. I want a good story. I have a good story to tell. It was, I have a good story to tell and I have a commentary to tell. And I find the most value with those books because now that doesn't mean I'm not here for a good time, but a short time, you know, like I love turning off my brain and just kind of going through the motions. But then there's other times where a book just grabs you and you are able to just think more about it. And this is one of those series where every time I get to walk away thinking more, or every time, because Amy was ahead of me with reading everything. So every time she'd be like, just you wait. And I'm like, what are you? Leave me alone. I'm going through my process. And it's like, you can see it. And we saw it with your writing. And I love being able to talk to you because it just confirms some of the things that we suspected of, like, you know, you do take this seriously and it's a genre that should be taken seriously.
Yeah. And I mean, to me, the perfect romantasy combines like equal parts of the romance and the world and like, to me, those are the two things and one can't exist without the other. Like that's always my goal when I'm writing romantasy. You couldn't, if you took the romance out, then the rest wouldn't work and vice versa. So, and then, in terms of like commentary and making sure, I mean, and some people will walk away and not take any of it and some people will appreciate it. Right. And I think that's why reading is, great fun. Because everyone sort of can take what they want from something. Yeah. Well,
thank you.
Take a moment to like try and make the world a better place while you're writing a book too.
And you're doing it though. Like I really, it was one of those books that a lot of our listeners read for the first time for our book club and they loved it and they really enjoyed it. And listeners who had already read it, they were the ones who recommended it. They were the ones who were like, you please add this to everything. So no, I'm very grateful for this. And also low key, you're going to be at Romantasy Con.
I am,
We're going to be at Romantasy Con. We live in LA.
Okay, nice.
So if you see me just being like, hi, how are you?
Okay, no, awesome. That's great.
Hello. And then I'm going to do the awkward, hi, I'm Jac from Book Talk for Book Talk. I don't know if you remember me, but let's just rehearse this greeting now.
Don't be offended if it takes me a moment. Just
No, it's okay.
There's going to be so many people.
I know. It's going to be so many people. And my hair's going to be washed and down and I'm actually blonde. The roots are showing.
I will remember you. I will remember you. Though that's awesome. I'm looking forward to it. I was in LA last year, Anaheim for Stimulant, and it was doing this. I'm in this like photography book with like this woman's doing like a whole HEA like romance book with a whole bunch of like with like Allie Hazelwood and like a whole bunch of big names. And she's like, well, if you're in LA, would you like consider being in it? So I'm meeting her to like get photos done. And
that's awesome.
That's incredible.
Which is kind of going to be fun. Yeah. So
I love that. And you're doing some talks too, right?
I'm on a panel.
Yeah. You're doing a panel.
We did sign
up. Yeah. We signed up for that panel.
Yeah. I don't know, sometimes it becomes a blur. And then we're going, like my family and I, we're going to Mexico the week before. Like literally we get home on Monday and I leave Thursday. So it's going to be a bit of a whirlwind, but
yeah. We'll have like the sign in the background. Woo!
Yeah,
that's
woo!
The sign. Just woo.
Well, we don't want to take any more of your time, but before we sign off, do you want to tell our listeners about your upcoming projects or about your other series?
So I'm going contemporary next. With Not Safe for Work, which is my first it's an office rom-com. If you like the Hating Game is like my favorite all-time romance, and because I just love the angst and the tension. Anyways, yeah. So like I was an engineer in my former life, and being like a woman of color in a very male-dominated industry, like the crazy shit that happened. And my like girlfriends that I worked with, we'd always like, we got to write a book about this one day. So I did.
I love it.
Yeah. So like basically they're rival coworkers and they're going like on a retreat to Hawaii. And they're picking like the stars from every office, and she thinks her career is like flatlined, and she's shocked when she gets picked. And they get there, and she kind of like finds out like the officers are like, yeah, we realize we're like really just a whole bunch of white guys. So like we,
so it was like a diversity pick.
Yeah. Like we're giving you this opportunity. And she's like, well, fine, I'll take the free trip to Hawaii.
Yeah.
And, they get there, and there's only one room for them and one bed, you know how it goes. And so like slowly over time, like she realizes he's not the villain she thought he was. She thought he was. And, she sort of like lets down her guard. And there's like a theme of, not trying to win over people who refuse to be won, and sort of like making your own path when it's just like you can't keep beating your head against a wall when it's not your responsibility to do that, right? Like to move on and stuff. And yeah, I'm excited. I actually think it's my best book. I'm actually really, really excited for it.
And I've been seeing a lot of ARC readers on Instagram, and a lot of people being really excited about it.
Oh, so. Good. Yeah. I'm really excited. It was my most personal book
when does it come out?
And May 20th.
May 20th. Okay.
May 20th. Yeah.
And then where can people find you on social?
NishaJTuli.com is my website, and I'm Nisha JT Writes on pretty much on everything, basically.
And for our listeners, she shares some pretty great fan art. That's
I write so that I can fuel my art hobby.
Yeah, it's pretty elite. It's very good. So
it's fun to do. Good. Yeah, it's nice to have.
And we'll link all your socials in our show notes so people can discover you there as well.
Thank you so much. I've thoroughly loved talking to you, and you're just as incredible as your book. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
And I can't wait to see you at Romantasy Con.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Okay, great.
Okay, right, bye.
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 Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Book Talk for Book Talk with Jac and Amy. We encourage you to rate and subscribe to our show on your preferred podcast listening platform. Next week, we'll be discussing Quicksilver by Cali, Hart.
We would love to hear your thoughts based on today's conversation. If you'd like to submit your take on any of the books we plan to discuss later this spring, please be sure to follow us on Instagram, where we ask for listener submissions.
If you're enjoying the podcast, please visit our website, booktalkforbooktalk.com, to view our latest merch and learn about supporting the show through Patreon or Venmo. You can also follow us on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube at the handle Book Talk for Book Talk.
Bye.
Bye.
The search for truth never ends. Introducing June's Journey, a hidden object mobile game with a captivating story. Connect with friends, explore the Roaring 20s, and enjoy thrilling activities and challenges while supporting environmental causes. After 7 years, the adventure continues with our immersive travels feature. Explore distant cultures and engage in exciting experiences. There's always something new to discover. Are you ready? Download June's Journey now on Android or iOS.
Amy, when you're done reading a really good book and you just have an itch to scratch, you have a trope, a theme, a genre, something that you just really want to get another good story. Fortunately, with Galatea, you have over 1,000 stories to choose from shifter romance to sci-fi, from thrillers to bad boy billionaires, forbidden love, werewolf series, alpha fantasy, rom-coms, and so much more.
Galatea is a reading app where modern book lovers can dive into a library of immersive stories with sound effects, vibrations, and real-time pacing that adapts to your reading speed. Every scene comes alive.
Galatea is home to original series and standalone stories with an exclusive catalog of best-selling authors, and new chapters drop daily. So there's always something new to explore.
Over 30 million people have already made Galatea their go-to. Join now to escape the ordinary and indulge in stories that make you feel everything.
Right now, Galatea is offering our listeners an extra 25% off on top of an already irresistibly affordable subscription when you go to galatea.com/booktalk.
That's GALATEA.com/booktalk. BOOKTALK to indulge in unlimited stories for even less. Galatea.com/booktalk.